AI is changing the game for our events, for our trade shows, our conferences, corporate events. So many ways AI is going in there and just making changes. And is it making things better? Is it making things worse? Is it taking over jobs? Is it taking over the world? We're going to find out a lot about that today. I have on an amazing guest for you, Anca TreeFan. Anca is the CEO of TreeFan Events and Fit Mindful Mavens. She's an award-winning event producer, an in-demand speaker. She's a podcaster, and so much more. I'm going to have her tell you a little bit more about herself. Anka, welcome to Trade Show University. So glad to have you back on.
I'm so happy to be here, Jim. I was just reminiscing on the times that we had a conversation last time, and it was definitely a different season, a different topic, quite some time ago. And especially in today's age, when things move so fast, you're like, episode 100, what? You're like, we're in the 300s now. We don't even know what those episodes were about, right? So very, very grateful to be invited again, which means it was a good conversation the first time, and I'm looking forward to this conversation this time around.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's been amazing to see your growth over the last couple of years as a podcaster and as an influencer. Your content, what you've been able to accomplish has just been amazing. So really glad that you were able to be back on the podcast. Before we get started, why don't you tell people a little bit about yourself and your companies?
Well, I laugh when you say influencer. It's like everybody wants to be an influencer. I'm like, really? I still giggle at that. I think I definitely appreciate that I've set myself to be a thought leader in our industry, in our space, in events and event productions, and now AI technology. And I think that just speaks volumes to the fact that I'm always onto this growth path. For me, there's nothing stagnant about our industry or my personal development, and I'm always curious about what's next. So that's how even this new side of the company, Feed Mindful Mavens, came about. All ties into my desire to keep getting better, whatever that might be, mentally, physically, emotionally, professionally, personally, all the things, right? Spiritually, because all of those are great parts of ourselves, and we can't ignore any of those. I mean, we could, but then there's definitely a payback. So I'm the CEO of Trifan Events. That's still there. Now I'm actually kind of building an AI division to this event company that's been around for quite a bit. And we've done a lot of events, a lot of AV production, and the AI became this new offering of our services, especially AI consultancy and integration and anything that has to do with education. I'm big on that. I love to learn myself, and I love to educate other people and make it simple for them to understand in terms that are easy to understand. So that's kind of like the background. And Fee Mindful Mavens ties into a lot of the incentive retreats and events that we do on a smaller scale, very much geared towards event professionals and small business owners and CEOs, C-level executives that want to just take a little break. And that comes from my background as a bodybuilder, as an athlete, as someone that also pursues that full time, because I mean, I don't have enough jobs that I do, but it's really embedded into my DNA basically. And I had to do something with it. It's like, okay, if I'm so passionate about this and I'm spending so much time, what else can I do with it? So then I create a whole brand around it. And obviously the podcast, Events Demystify podcast, you've been a guest on number 68, which was many, many seasons ago. But I feel like that conversation is still very much relevant to what we're going to talk about today. I mean, you're still very passionate about trade shows. That didn't go away. And there's so much new to be learned about trade shows, especially in the age of AI. So we're going to touch on that a little bit. But yeah, aside from all of that, I mean, apparently I'm an influencer now. So what else can I say?
I love it. I love it. And yes, you are. Yes, you are. I see so many people following you. Your audience is growing, at least on LinkedIn and your podcast and all that you're doing is just amazing. But something you said, this is really I want to be our jump off point here into our conversation is keeping things simple, making things simple for easy for people to understand. So let's talk about AI and how is it changing the game for our corporate events, for our trade shows? What's it doing? Should we be afraid of it?
Well, it's a very interesting question. It's a double-edged sword, right? So I feel like we should start with the positive, and then we can, glean a little bit into the side of AI that we should be aware. I wouldn't say that we should be afraid of or have fear of, but mostly we should be aware of. Like anything else, there is, there is opportunity to be taken and used in other ways than what's intended. So if you've been around for the last 2 years, hopefully you didn't live under a rock, you've noticed how much AI has been really changing the way we do things, the way it enhances our efficiency, creativity, decision making in events, in our own personal lives, as well as professional lives, business operations. And I see a lot of event planners that are starting to use tools like Events GPT Copilot, Chat GPT, Hive GPT, PCMA's Project Spark, custom GPTs like my own AV production GPT and a few other ones that I've created custom specifically for clients. I mean, there's the opportunity to create this custom GPT that's fed on data that you have for a particular event. And then next time you interact with that client, with that event, you use your custom GPT that already has all this data built in. And it doesn't have to be public. You can keep it private. It's just between you and your clients, right? But then you have this, in a way, Wikipedia of information that you've already trained your custom GPT on to be able to serve your client best with personalized recommendations for different event themes, different from what they had in the past, schedules, vendors based on past successful events. And all of this is because AI has a much better bandwidth to do predictive analysis, task automations, and improve really the attendee engagement, but also the processes and the workflows for the back end producers and event planners like ourselves.
Wow, there's just so much there. But it's all data driven is what it sounds like. So if you don't have volumes of data or years of data from your events, where do you start? What is a good starting point for an event planner or from anyone in this industry?
I mean, most events, they're probably not the first timers. If you are a first timer event producer and this is your first time when you're putting on an event, yes, you might not have a lot of data and you not have a lot of insights to go back, but also gives you then the ability to be creative, to do something new, to really explore and not do the same thing that everybody's been doing. So to me, that's a great opportunity to engage with some of those AI tools to come up with something new and original. Now, how original it is based on the data set that's been trained on, that's a different conversation altogether. But most events, they do involve extensive preparation and investment of time. And because of it, they also have a lot of data that they would collect. Unfortunately, not a lot of personnel to be able to go through the data, sift through the data, make sense of that, and then come up with some insights to figure out, okay, so next year we're going to do this because based on what we've learned on all of those, metrics and all of those key findings, we now have the ability to make informed decisions. With AI, now you can do that because you can easily feed even a ChatGPT, a normal, ChatGPT, all of this data, or you'll use AI, right? Like it's phenomenal at reading spreadsheets and reading PDFs and making sense of all of that. So you can then have some AI-driven insights and analytics that will be valuable for personalizing the event experience beyond what you've done before, also optimizing some of the marketing strategies and campaigns you're going to run for your next event, and ultimately enhance that attendee experience. Like, for example, a tool like Hive GPT, which is a series of AI agents, and this is put out by Social 27. They offer deep insights and streamlined complex tasks, which can absolutely transform your marketing efforts and your sales efforts, because now you can do things that before would have taken so much more time, so much more people working behind the scenes to make sense of that. Another tool that I really like, especially as is relevant to trade shows, is called Fast Sensor. And obviously there's Stova Event Intelligence that can collect and analyze data before, during, and after events. But what fast sensor does, which is a little different, and actually I'm gonna put out there that there's an episode on my podcast, Defense my podcast. I don't remember if it's like 123, 124, where I talk with Kalen of Fast Sensor, and he explained to me kind of like in layman's terms, because this is a technology that is very much based on unsupervised learning and used for event metrics. And I was like, okay, so tell me more like in a way that I would understand what does that mean, right? Because most of us would know that unsupervised learning is a type of machine learning that can use input data without anything that's labeled, without a label response, but then it can find structure in that data, like grouping, clustering data points in the context of event metrics to give it several applications, like for example, pattern recognition. It can identify common paths and engagement patterns. If you're a trade show manager, right? You want to know where your attendees travel. You want to know how to optimize your event layout and your scheduling based on some of that data. It can also detect anomalies. Like, for example, there's some unusual patterns that might indicate that this area is an area of concern, and maybe there's an area of unexpected opportunity for engagement that you didn't pay attention to before because you didn't have that data. Or you can also use that data to segment your attendees based on their behavior, based on what exactly are they looking for, and then target marketing so that it really speaks to what their desire is. Now, why is that cool is because, there's a lot of privacy concerns with especially facial recognition technologies out there. But this particular technology, because it only involves the movement of your cell phone, basically it detects your Wi-Fi signal, your Bluetooth signal, your RF signal. So if you have a phone in your pocket, and most people that I know, they definitely have a device on them. Like you don't walk around the trade show without a device. Then it detects that signal, and based on that signal would create those maps, right? You wouldn't like look at facial recognition. You wouldn't look at anything that in other technologies is somewhat of a privacy concern, because nobody wants to have their face read and stored who knows where, and then who knows what happens with that. Plus there's so much regulation, especially when it comes to GDPR and CCPA, with collecting personally identifiable information without explicit authorized concerns. So all of that is something that I love this technology, because it combines this RF signal with your Wi-Fi signal with your data from your own device. Then you can create AI algorithms that will analyze your behavior, and that means that it can track the movements of where your attendee are walking throughout the venue, where are they stopping, for how long. It processes some of those movement patterns and then creates engagement hotspots and other relevant metrics that, I mean, if you're a trade show producer, if you're an event producer, you want to know exactly where do people go, what are they attracted to, where do they stop, like where do they exit, all of those data points that would give you a more informed decision on what can you do better next time so you have a better result. Because at the end of the day, you do want to have some leads, right? Like hot leads. So that's just another way in which AI technology now is used to really help you make better informed decisions. And in a way, there isn't much excuse anymore. Like you can go to a trade show and just oh, we got a bunch of emails and and be okay with it, because more and more this technology is going to get used, and more your stakeholders are going to ask you, okay, so now that we have this technology, how are we responding to it, and how are we actually making progress and providing an ROI for us being there at that show in the first place?
Absolutely fascinating. And everyone who's listening right now knows that I have the right guest on to talk about this topic. So very, very grateful for that. And yes, I've also had Kaylin from Fast Sensor on as a
Awesome.
guest. So I'm going to drop the links for both of these episodes from Anca's podcast as well as my own into the show notes. So please check those out, because it is absolutely outstanding what we can gather as a show planner to know that, hey, we set up a hospitality area over here and we have
Hmm.
this new product area over here. how well were those visited, and you can track the traffic. It's not just going to be relying on the opinion of someone that was working in that area. How was
Right.
it? You know, it's yeah, it's all
Oh, it
always
was
good
pretty
to get
good. It was pretty good, right? It's like, okay,
right.
so how does that actually translate into some metrics, actual metrics?
Right, absolutely. And what changes do we make next year? Or if you think about, I remember Kaylin talking about even within an exhibit, you can do the same kind of censoring, and so
Mhm.
you could
Yeah,
see how people are flowing through your booth. What displays are they stopping? What are they interacting with? Who are they talking to? And so you could even make changes from day one
on
to
the
day
fly.
two. Yeah,
Yep.
based on what's going on. Wait, nobody's going over here to this activation that we have going
Yeah.
on, and we spent a lot of money on that. Maybe we need to move that or change things.
Yep.
So, wow, the data that is available to us through these AI tools is just
Yeah.
mind blowing. It is mind blowing,
Absolutely.
and and we're just scratching the surface. I mean, there's so much. One thing that really intrigued me, you talked about developing custom AI tools for
Mhm.
your clients and for yourself. Can you give an example of that? And is that something that someone should reach out to someone like you for that? Can they do it on their own? Give us
Well,
some
I'll
insights
give you a
there.
couple of case studies. Okay. Like, for
Perfect.
example, I have created the AV production GPT came out of the desire and the complaint in so many ways of so many event planners having dealt with very much high prices and skyrocketing prices when it comes to AV production. Now, that's not necessarily just the fault of the AV production companies that now they have to raise their prices, because if you haven't shopped in the last 2 years, I don't know what to tell you, but you know that the prices of everything has skyrocketed, right?
Yeah.
So that was as a to provide a tool for someone that just wanted to get a basic estimate. Like, if I am going to need this type of AV support for this event that I'm planning, what should I expect? And we're still working with the pricing models, because let me tell you, there's a lot of data out there. Like, I have my personal data based on all the events that I plan and all the AV production that I've done over the years. But there's also pricing that involves big players in this world that have their own models. And sometimes those models differ so harshly from property to property. We're not going to name any names, but I think we all know who we're talking about. And we wanted to give like somewhat of a basic like understanding. If you're going to do an event at this location for this many people and you're going to need this type of AV, expect to pay this much, or at least expect to ask for this type of like, support from the AV production point of view so that you are covered, which is a great tool for someone that is like, I don't understand this quote. I don't know how to read AV proposals. So like, I don't even know what to ask for. Like, do I need 2 of this or do I need 5 of this? Like, what are those things, right? So that's kind of like this resource that I provided, so that if you wanted to know, wait, what is this converter that looks like I have 100 of on this proposal? Like, are they just multiplying because they feel like it? Actually, no. If you actually have a device, if you have a projector, if you have a laptop, if you have anything, you're gonna need one of those video converters no matter what. So you probably will need that many if you multiply that by number of breakouts, or who knows how many sessions you've got around the property if this is a conference, a multi-day conference, right? That's one case study. Another case study could be, for example, a custom GPT for a DMC, where they input all the information and the data that they would have. Normally, it's somewhat listed on a website, but tell me, how many times do people go on websites to update that information? It's like, in most cases, most of the times probably gets updated on social. Hey, we have this events are happening this week, or this events are happening this week, right? Like in our area, or those would be the type of activities that if you bring a group to our area that you should be doing. Now, what if you train this custom GPT to represent your specific location, your region, and it has all of this information built in. So when me as an event planner then wants to maybe plan an incentive in this, I was in Alaska for a fam trip recently, and they took us on different excursions and did a lot of cool things that we got to experience. And I would have not known about those things. But now that I know, say they also had this GPT where I would go and say, hey, hey, I have a group of about, I don't know, 50 executives, and this is their, this is their type, this is their ICP. You want to give it a bit of information, right? What you're looking for. And we want to do some things like provide us with some resources. And it's all spat out in an agenda format with like, this is how long it will take you to get from location A to location B. This is how much time you should plan at this location based on what's to do there. And then this is where you should have lunch. And this is where you should go to the next place. Like, imagine that. Now, that is a tool that would be useful to someone that wants to plan an incentive over there versus I'm going to the website. I'm kind of sort of like going through pages trying to figure out what's there. There's nobody to answer questions. I mean, I might get back maybe an email, I don't know, days later if anybody gets to it. And I'm still kind of left, in the dark with needing an answer now. Because the reality is most people, when they work on a project, they work on it now. Like, I don't know how many times you started working on something, you put it on the back burner, and it's like, I'm going to go get back to it. And then you either don't get back to it or totally forgot, or you're like, okay, somebody else got to do it because I don't have time for it anymore because now I have other responsibilities. Versus if I'm working in the moment, I need the answer now. And I need to know now so I can go to the next task and I go to the next thing, right? So it's like everything kind of happens like this nowadays with AI. So we gotta come together as an industry and provide that kind of support for our events, for our event planners, and make it easy. Like, make it easy to have access to the information that's already there. It's not like you have to unearth new information, new data sets. You already have that. You just have to package it in a way that's easy accessible.
Yeah, and there's so much more data than we even realize we have. It's all
Exactly.
there, but we've never had the time. We've never had the resources to dive into all of this data and the way we cross-section it, and the AI can make quick work of that and give you insights that you never could have done on your own.
Or I even
And
thought of a AV production GPT to plan a trade show, or maybe to plan booth sizes. Like, what type of booth size should I have in this location, knowing that this location or this particular venue is this size, right? Where would be the best place to put my booth based on how people behavior patterns,
mm,
known patterns are. Like, we all know when somebody walks into a trade show space or any space, their tendency always is to go to the right, right? So it's
yeah.
like, how many times you walk into a space and you're like, oh, let's go this way. Like, I don't remember many times me going left unless somebody was on the left hand side and I wanted to go and say hi. But like, pattern behaviors that we all have as humans is like, go to the right, and then that that's the booth that you want to be placing yourself on the right hand side, right? So like, imagine having a tool that can give you some of those insights. I love also conversations when I have with Victoria Matei. She's all about behavioral science, and now embed some of that into our knowledge database. So we learn those patterns based on how people and how humans like predictably function, right? And then use that data and embed it with your other data about your layouts, about your venue sizes, about your booth sizes, and then create this amazing resource that now you can even, provide it as a membership base to your audience,
Mm.
or it can be a free resource, right? It's like, hey, for, I don't know, $9.99 a month, you get access to this. So next time you're not like completely, mind blown because you don't even know where to start to plan for your next trade show or booth or whatever.
Yeah, and it really all comes down to understanding the audience, and the AI tools will help you understand your audience better than you can because they can observe
They learn.
patterns, and yeah, better way better than we as humans can. So I appreciate all that. Let's talk about what one more thing I really want to bring up here is inclusivity.
Mm.
How can AI make our events more inclusive than ever?
That's a great question. I feel like there is last year and 2 years ago, there's a strong focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And somehow, somewhere, it's kind of going a bit away, right? But I feel like that's still so important. And it's not something that we can just forget about just because it's not a trend anymore. And the AI tools that are being used to provide those personalized experiences, they can also be used to accommodate for different needs, and they can ensure that all voices are heard. And that's where initiatives and a growing emphasis on mental and physical fitness, for example, of the event professionals, that's what I care a lot about, that is focusing on inclusive events that are designed, and the strategy behind it is that they are designed in a way that is helping create a more equitable and accessible event environment. That's where I had to come up with this framework, which I call Fit for Events framework, because I wanted to have the ability to provide resources and content in a organized manner. And like if you go on my website, or if you go on my LinkedIn, you're like, you talk about 4 different things. I'm like, yes, but now if you were to look at this framework that is under the Fit for Event, you would understand that the 4 things that I talk about are AV production related, AI technology related, empowering our audiences and empowering our behind the scenes teams, right? So all of those are very important to me. So that's where, we started the Mindful Mavens in collaboration with other partners like Olympian Meeting, Return on Wellness, to design opportunities in the event industry where wellness at events is taken into consideration at a different level. I also love viewpoints from people like, for example, Andrew Robbie of Robbie Events, where he really talks about DEI from his perspective, which it's a perspective I couldn't talk about, right? And I love that he's a proud Army vet, but also a leader in event space. And he really shares insights on how we can improve and the way we can improve our events so that our audiences and our clients experience that. And there's obviously essential elements to inclusion, and that is one of them is belonging. And I love to point people when it comes to belonging to people like David Allison. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's from Value Graphics, and he is amazing at aligning event strategies with shared human values that can significantly enhance the attendee experience and the satisfaction. You should definitely reach out to David and have a conversation on the podcast, because he's been a fantastic resource, especially based on the groundbreaking research that they've been doing for quite a bit of time, where they created those database maps of global values from nearly 1 million surveys across numerous countries. And then they were providing insights on how we event professionals can take that into the event space to really create and produce events that resonate deeply with our audience's core values. Because just because you say that your value is this doesn't mean that you might act on it. So that means verbally you express that this is a value, but what is your core value based on your habits? That's really what really matters. And you're always going to defer to your core values no matter what you say out loud, right? So that it's such an interesting research, and that kind of fascinates me. And I want to see where they would take it with AI in a way where it becomes even more practical, where it can be implemented in easy fashion, where everybody can understand and use it, so that we can make those informed decisions, so that our meetings do become more inclusive and belonging is part of the core value that we all share.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. And one thing that's a big part of my world is I'm also an ADA trainer. So I work with folks in wheelchairs,
Yeah.
and their movement around a venue, especially if it's off-site. Okay, how do we get them from the main venue, main hall to the
Yeah.
off-site? And are we accommodating for them? And but yes, that's just one component. There's so many things to consider, and AI can
Yes.
definitely help us get to that point. Wow, this has been outstanding. Love the
I was gonna
conversation.
say, in US we actually do pretty good with ADI, even though
Yeah.
it is a concern, but don't go to Europe. 'Cause oh my goodness. I had a friend that her husband is it's been, had his back injured for quite a bit, and He's been in a wheelchair for about 10 years, and they had an event that they did in Europe, and she was taking him and the family. I was like, let's go to Europe. I have this event. And man, the lessons learned,
Mm.
not good, not good. It was like, now I'm grateful that even the things that we say we don't have here, I feel like there's still so many levels above.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. You're 100% right. And the one just getting to Europe, the airline industry needs a lot of work in
Mm,
that area too. But I don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
yes.
But Anca, thank you so much for all this wisdom and insights and excitement that you bring to this topic. As we wrap up, what are a couple of key takeaways you really want people to remember from today?
If you're going to experience with and just get your toes wet in this new space, I say do it earlier than later because the technology is it's moving so fast. Like I want to ask you really quick, Jim, what do you think is an AI year in terms of AI? Like when it comes to AI, like what is a 1 year in AI years
Oh my
right now?
gosh. I It's gotta be like 20. Or what would you
No, like
say?
think of like an AI year in terms of AI, like how fast an AI year moves.
Oh my gosh, I have no idea. It's gotta
It's
be beyond anything I can imagine.
because a lot of people, a lot of like IBM released some data and they said that an AI year right now moves at a pace of 3 months. Like everything that
Oh,
would like a 3 months, what we would look at it at 3 months, it's like it's already passed, and I was like, man, yeah, I mean, everything is moving even faster, and that's just accelerating. That's accelerating as you speak. So if you haven't, even played with a simple tool like ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot, Perplexity, there's quite a few out there. Claude, people prefer that as well. Do it earlier than later. And even if you do it personally, maybe you don't have the ability to take your AI to work, that's okay. But I would definitely encourage you to try that. I mean, I hear from event planners that they complain. I was like, I don't know what to do for our next event. Like, we're straight out of ideas for our event team. We've done so many things. I'm like, how would you not use some AI tools to help you with that? Generate a brand new event team based on what you've done last year or the years past. Generate a brand new agenda. Generate a brand new menu. Like, use the tools that you have and make use of them and leverage them. And that's kind of like my encouragement. Like, start there. Like, start with the simplest of things. I mean, a simple, silly example that I gave is like I'm notorious for like opening up my fridge and being like, I don't know what to eat. There's nothing to eat. The full is like the fridge is full, and I would have all these ingredients. I snap a picture and I go in ChatGPT. I'm like, okay, this is what I have. What can I create super fast, like with these ingredients based on this is my macros. Like I need to fit my macros within this recipe, and give me some ideas. And lo and behold, like this, I've got the recipe ready to go, right? The same way with our menus, so with our agendas, with our topics. Like we've done all of those topics. What else could we talk about for our next conference? Well, like how about you run it by AI, get some new fresh ideas versus just do the same thing or just, kind of leave it out there for your speakers to decide in your place. So those are just some simple ideas. Just get on with it. Don't be afraid. The more you practice, the better you get at it. I actually have a free ebook on ChatGPT prompting frameworks. If you really don't know how to prompt any GPT LLM out there, that's a great starter because I cover about 15 frameworks where you can implement it to anything. And there's examples and there's the prompt. Just use that if that's what you need to get started, really.
Wow, fantastic. And yeah, we'll drop a link to your website so they can access that. And I know you have also a micro course on AI for events. Tell people about
Yes.
that.
So I actually had those micro courses that I would do them every month. And now I decided to open it up as a one-on-one consultation. So, because I would do those for like a group of 10, but then the more I did those and I learned that you need to be a little bit more specific and more in tune with each participant. So then I decided to open them as a one-on-one consultation. So right now on my calendar, on my website, you can go under AI services and it's AI mini course. So in 60 minutes, we dive into your specific workflow and specific needs. And then I would provide you with assistance, recommendations, consultation based on what your need is so that you can implement those tools for your specific workflow. Because I mean, generally, it's not a whole complicated for, people kind of do things the same way. Like when it comes to productivity, there's a lot of the same tools, but there's still a lot of differences. And that's where that personalized experience come into play, right? So that's available. Just get on my calendar if you feel like that's something that either you want to refresh yourself. And let me tell you, as someone that is very in tune with AI and very much keeping step in with AI as it's changing, I even myself get overwhelmed sometimes with the sheer amount of AI apps and AI news and AI everything that's coming out on a daily. Just staying up to date with everything every single morning. I spend my 2 hours of the day just sifting through news, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like if this was a full-time job, I would understand, but it's not everybody's full-time job, right? So
Right, right.
I totally get the overwhelm and I totally understand that. So if you just want to, get just a little bit better at what you should be using or what's the most effective way, just get on my calendar. I'd love to have a conversation.
Take her up on that. Take her up on that. I'll drop links to her calendar and everything we talked about is going to be in the show notes, the description. Please check all that out. Anca, thank you so much. Can't thank you enough for joining me again here on Trade Show U. I know there's a lot of wheels spinning, people and probably people that have already tuned out and have been typing and doing research. And just I really, really greatly appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And everyone keep coming back here for more insights to Trade Show University. We'll see you next time.